You are listening to the Loida Lewis podcast, hosted by Loida Nicolas Lewis. She's a trailblazing businesswoman, leader, philanthropist, and the widow of Reginald F. Lewis, the visionary leader who was the first African American to build a billion-dollar company. With unparalleled determination, Loida Lewis has not only excelled as a successful attorney, but also shaped a billion-dollar empire. Following the untimely passing of her husband, Reginald F. Lewis, she took the helm of TLC Beatrice, carving her legacy as a successful business leader. Be inspired and learn from her as she shares her wisdom, the secrets to her success in both business, in love, and in life. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn. With your host, Miss Loida Lewis.
Welcome to the Loida Lewis podcast. And today you won't believe who I have as a guest. The king of talk in the Philippines, Dr. Boy Abunda. Yes, he is here. I'm so grateful that you were able to come here.
Maraming salamat. I am honored, and I would have killed to get to the show.
Oh my goodness. No, you're so kind.
No, I'm really happy, Loida, that I was given this chance to be here, to do a conversation with you, and just to be with you. Because it has been a tradition for the past years that I would spend my birthdays with you.
Yes, that's
It's
right.
an honor.
Yes, thank you. This the honor is mine. And in my mind, Oprah Winfrey did well for the United States. But you are still going on. She stopped her show, but you're still going on, so you're one over her. Yes, the Oprah Winfrey is really the Boy Abunda of the United States.
I'm totally coming from you. It's flattering, but I would not dream to have achieved what the great Oprah Winfrey, who remains an inspiration, even now that she has stopped doing her show. Doing her shows, she continues to inspire with her specials, and but thank you for those kind words, Loida. Thank you.
All right. So now, what is the greatest challenge? Because you have been doing this for many years. Isn't that correct? More than 25 years.
Oh, more than 30.
More than 30 years. All right. So now you have really interviewed almost every single important person in the Philippines. So what is the challenge, if there is any challenge?
No, before I answer that question, I don't know if you remember this. A couple of years ago, I wrote 3 very important letters in my life. Sumulat po ako ng liham. I mentioned this to you. One was for Barbara Walters. One was for Oprah Winfrey. The other one was for Hillary Clinton. Dahil noon, it was a dream for me to be able to do an interview with the 3 great women of the United States. Michelle Obama was not very visible then, and Kamala Harris was not in the... Well, they were, but they were not as visible as they are today. And, of course, my letter to Oprah returned to the Philippines. Barbara got lost along the way, I understand, because of her circumstance during the time. But Hillary answered because of Loida. And I said, I don't mind if this, her letter was, Dear Boy, the fact that she mentioned my name was enough, and you made it possible. And she said, let's do the conversation during the fall. I knew it was going to be a problem because I was going home and I was going to do a job at hindi matutuloy yun, but the fact that she said boy was a source of great joy.
Wow.
So thank you, Loida. Thank you. So the dreams have not stopped. The biggest challenge is I pray for jitters. I pray for jitters before I do my conversations. Because when I'm not jittery, I overtalk. The biggest challenge is to make every conversation new. The biggest challenge is not knowing what's going to happen. The biggest challenge is not knowing where your guest wants to go. And I sit in front of a guest open. I have an open heart and I have an open mind. I do my research. I somehow know where I'm going to go, but it's not about where I want to go. It's about where the guest wants to go. And that's a challenge, both good and bad, but you live with it in every conversation that you do.
Okay. Yes. And I have to say to the audience that, in a way, you have taught me how to interview because I was interviewed by no less than Dr. Boy Abunda. So now, I would like you to try to recall in all of the years, more than 30 years, what would you say are the top 3 or 5? The top 3 interviews that you have done that is, you will say, oh, okay, that was good, that was good, that was good. All good first.
Tough interviews.
Yes, all 3 or 5. In all the 30 years,
okay.
That's a little hard question.
I've always said that go for what comes to mind first. I did an interview with Neil Donald Walsh. He wrote the book Conversations with God. One of the biggest reasons why that comes to mind is in the middle of my interview, he broke down. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know where he was coming from, but I respect moments like this one. He cried in front of my guests, in front of me, and he had his wife with him, and we were talking about conversations because his book is titled Conversations with God. I didn't know that he was coming from a place of maybe, I don't know if it was what was happening in his life. It was perhaps a challenging point in his life that when we were doing a conversation, he just was
Overwhelmed.
Yes, by his emotions. That's one. It was a good conversation about talking to God, prayer, and how these conversations affected him and how his book affected me and his readers at that point. At that point, that's one.
So that's the first one who broke down right in front of you.
Yeah,
Okay,
as a lot of people. I had this dubious reputation at one point in my life. I think until now that when I do an interview with you, you have to cry. So that's one. Number 2, the great New Age philosopher Deepak Chopra.
He came also?
Yes, he went to the Philippines because he was promoting his books, many books. And I was starting a show called Private Conversations with Boy Abunda many, many years ago. I mean, over 20 years ago. My first live show was with Deepak Chopra. And I was jittery. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was panicking because I was familiar with 1 or 2 books, but I was not really familiar with the work of Deepak. So I crammed, I think, a few days before that interview because I wanted to be ready. And over 30 years ago, I think this happened, close to 30 years ago. Private Conversations, close to 30 years. Private Conversations with Boy Abunda. He sat down, he was late for a couple of minutes, not very late, about 5 minutes maybe. Came down from the hotel. He was staying in Siang, Makati. And I was ready, I was waiting for him. And we said, welcome to the Philippines, Mr. Chopra. And then I overheard Deepak talking to his wife about where he misplaced his belt. So he came down. I think, if I remember correctly, he had somebody run to a store to buy him his belt. And that started my conversation. You are the most respected New Age philosopher I've met in my life. How does it feel to lose the belt?
his belt.
Yes. So it started
Very
there.
good.
I will not forget that.
All right. And the third one.
Wow. Perhaps the most difficult that comes to mind was an interview I did with Sister Christine Tan. The
Could
late
you explain
Sister
who is-
Christine
yes,
Tan.
yeah.
Sister Christine Tan devoted her life to serving the poor. She came from a middle-class family but decided to live in a place called Leveriza, where he lived she lived, and she was with the poor. One time, I was doing the same show, Private Conversations with Boy Abunda. It was a live show on ABS-CBN, and sabi ko sa kanya, sister, thank you for coming to the show, finding time for private conversations. She sat in front of me and she said, sino ka ba?
Oh, no.
Sabi ko, sister, I host this television show, but not on air. It was before the camera started to roll. Yeah. Sabi niya, sabi ko, my name is Boy Abunda and I am an interviewer. Okay. Sabi ko, sister, bakit ho kayo pinapunta dito ng iyong congregation? Sabi niya, kasi we're raising some funds for, we're feeding families in Leveriza, etc. And she was totally clueless about celebrity. She was totally clueless about talk shows. All she knew that time was she was sent by the group of nuns so that they would be able to raise funds for whatever programs they had in very depressed area.
Leveriza, yes.
Very depressed area. We started our conversation. Loida, it was one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult interview I did because ito yung klase ng interview. Good evening, welcome to the program, welcome to Private Conversations with Boy Abunda. With us tonight is Sister Christine Tan. Sister Christine, welcome to the show. Thank you. Sister, what do you do? I work for the poor, period. Sister, how long have you been doing this? Many years, period. Why do you do this? Because I love the poor. 12 minutes as a body, we technically call it a body. 12 minutes is eternity. And in the middle of that interview, I was praying to God. Sabi ko, Panginoong Diyos, sana matapos na ang 12 minuto na ito because I don't know where
to lead.
I was going.
Yes.
I didn't know where the grand lady of the Catholic Church was going. So I managed. I was just coasting along in that interview until towards the end. By the time I was on my 10th
question,
10th minute of that first body, and remember, Loida, you're doing 4 bodies of that. That's a 1-hour show. There's about 48 minutes of content, of text time. She started to talk about, I love Jesus. And I said, Sister Christine, talk to me about love. So she started to talk about love for Jesus is serving the poor. Then I went to, I was, in the studio, there's a big clock that tells you basically that you have 30 seconds to go. And I was about 30 seconds to gap.
Yes.
And I said, Sister, outside of loving Jesus, do you know what love is all about? And she laughed.
She laughed.
And I said, the answer to that question is when we come back with Sister Christine Tan. That broke the ice after 12 minutes. And then we started to talk about boyfriends. We started to talk about life. We started to talk about anything. But that was tough.
Oh,
that was really tough.
Yes.
I have done presidents. I have done politicians. I have done social scientists. I have done movie stars who are not easy to interview. But that one stands out.
Yes. You had
Pinagpawisan ako.
Pinagpawisan. That is it. Pinagpawisan. That's right. Exactly. Okay. So that's great. All right. Now, among the politicians, whom would you say you had a breakthrough? Among the politicians that you have interviewed in all the 30 years?
Very difficult, Loida, because I've done most of them, if not all of them. But I will not forget having done that interview with former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo live sa grounds po ng Malacanang, and it started to drizzle and we didn't know what to do. When you do a live interview with a sitting president, you follow protocol. So I remember that.
Can you just explain what they mean by live?
Live is we do a conversation and we are seen live
immediately.
As it happens.
I see.
As it happens.
Okay. So no time for take 2 or take 3.
No.
I see. Okay.
I did a live interview with the former president, and it was also challenging, but umaambon. We were outside the palace, and I could see not the private, the bodyguards, the PSG, our staff. I mean, nobody was moving because there was no signal from the president.
That's right.
The president was speaking, and when the president speaks, nobody moves. So I will not forget that. I will not forget.
So nabusa kayo. You were wet from the from the rain.
Then we went to a gap.
Okay.
And umbrellas just came flying.
Okay.
So, but that one I will not forget. But we finished the interview. We managed to finish the interview. Among politicians, it's very difficult to single out a politician. But let me tell you about politicians. Politicians and movie stars are alike. Both people are in the business of projection. They like to project to a public. They like to be liked by a public. They like to be appreciated by a public. They like the public to react to them. So basically, when you deal with movie stars, especially the bigger ones, when you deal with the big stars and when you deal with the big politicians, they're one and the same in the context of interviews. So the funny thing is, politicians come to the show because they want to promote themselves. Movie stars come to the show because they want to promote a movie or a stage play or a theatrical piece or a song. They want to promote. But of course, there are other things that we have to talk about aside from the things that they do. And that can be challenging, really challenging.
Okay. On that interview, I'm sure you have interviewed the former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo several times. Okay, how would you say was your impression over the years or maybe at one time?
Extremely bright. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I will, during that, a long time ago, I mean, I'm trying to remember these things because they happened many, many years ago. Yung panahon na yun, Loida, I was reading the book of Margaret Thatcher. Mm-hmm. And
Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister of England.
That's right.
Yes, together with Ronald Reagan, I think. Yes.
Okay. So I was reading the book of Margaret Thatcher, and I remember, aside from her policies that I know the world is familiar with, there was a part of the book where she discussed how Dennis Thatcher dealt.
Dennis Thatcher is...
I mean, what's a husband?
The husband's name? I don't know. Anyway, her husband.
The husband's name, how he dealt with power, how he dealt with being in the same room, living with, one of the world's most...
He was the first gentleman of England. Yes.
The first gentleman. So that led me to asking former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo the question as to two things. As to how First Gentleman Mike Arroyo was handling that. Because it's not an easy experience to support a president, a wife, who happens to be a president. Number two, I went to her height. You're barely 5, I told the former president, and you're so powerful. How do you connect power to you're being small in a way? Is that a trigger? Is that an insecurity that provokes you to be the best?
Wow. Goodness gracious.
We went
that's
into
tough.
that discussion. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's direct.
When you enter...
She's less than 5 feet.
Yes.
She's
when
4'11".
you enter a room of powerful men, does that height come into play? Because people have to listen to you. People have to feel your presence. It became an interesting discussion.
Wow.
It became an interesting discussion about power in the context of,
height.
I remember Mandela talked about it, that there is a relationship between physicality and power.
That's right.
So you don't have to be 6 foot tall to be noticed, to be present in a room full of powerful men. And she intelligently discussed it. I remember that conversation.
Okay. In recent history, we have President Duterte. Did he ever come to be a interviewee?
I was not able to do an interview with the former president.
Okay.
But I hosted a couple of shows in his presence. Mm-hmm. He must have been a tough interview. I think he's still a tough interview. I was not given a chance. Mm-hmm. I know he likes me, but I don't know if his communications guys were open to the idea. But I did express interest in doing an interview with the former president.
Yes, okay.
But it's not too late. I'm looking forward to doing an interview with the former president.
Yes, okay. So that remains on the drawing board. How about President Fidel Ramos? May he rest in peace.
Yes, I don't know if I did a formal interview with a former president, but I did an interview. I am not very sure. Mm-hmm. But I did a most unforgettable conversation interview with Tita Ming, Mrs. Ramos.
Mrs. Ramos, okay, the First Lady.
I did an interview with Mrs. Ramos, and it was, I think, one of the most memorable interviews I've done. Bago po magsimulang interview, Mrs. Ramos, Tita Ming, as I would call her, was smoking.
She smokes?
She had her own ashtray while she was smoking. This is off cam before the show started.
Yes.
I think she's quit smoking. So, when you're an interviewer, one of the most difficult things to do actually is to ask the first question. So, there you go again. I was doing private conversations with Boy Abunda, and I said, First Lady of the Philippines, Mrs. Amelita Ramos. But I had a wonderful conversation because as First Lady, I think she didn't stop to be principal of international school. She continued to take care of kids. She continued to be a teacher. She played badminton. But when I started my conversation with Tita Ming, I said, I didn't know you smoke. Why don't you want people to know that you actually smoke? Very curt.
Wow.
You know what she said? Because it's bad.
She's very honest. Yes.
The best way to answer the most difficult questions is to go straight.
Right. Truth is the best defense.
I agree, Loida.
Yes.
I agree, Loida.
So that was very smart of you and very brave to confront her with a question like that.
When you are an interviewer, there's a different kind of courage, a different kind of bravery, even bravado, when you're in front of the camera, because you know that you're not just asking the questions for yourself. You're asking questions for your audience. And in my case, the Filipino people. I have to be able to ask the questions that they want to ask. So that's the job that we do.
Okay, let's go to movie stars. Okay, movie stars. What are the most memorable, maybe one or two memorable interviews you have of movie stars in the Philippines?
All my interviews with Chris Aquino were memorable. All of them.
Okay.
When former President Aquino, when her mom, Tita Cory, died, I did that interview. All her love stories, the heartbreaks, I did the interviews with Chris. So most of them were memorable. What comes to mind, I did the Barreto sisters. I did Claudine Barreto when Rico Yan passed on. I did the most difficult interviews of Gretchen Barreto. A couple of days ago, I did an interview with the biggest superstar of the Philippines today, Catherine Bernardo. I have done a lot of them. I did, I think, one of the most difficult interviews of Casey Concepcion. I've done Sharon. I've done Nora Honor. I've done the 60 years of Vilma Santos. I've done the young stars. I've done the senior stars. I've done them all.
Oh, yes.
In happy, sad, lacrimal moments.
Yes.
I have done interviews with all of them.
Yes. What would you say? Because during the time, Nora Honor was one of the bigger stars at that time. What would you give as a sort of description, or what did you remember of your interview with Nora Honor?
Ako po'y isang tagahanga. I am a rabid fan of Nora Honor. And the thing is, every time she comes to my set, every time she comes to my shows, I ask a question, and it's so funny because as a fan, if I could only write what she has to say, I would do it. If I could only answer the questions on her behalf, I would do it. I am the uncomfortable one. Because I want, my star.
Yes,
I'm a rabid to this very day, Loida. I'm a rabid fan.
Yes.
It's not an easy interview every time she comes to my shows because I want her to do well. She's very nervous. She's not very comfortable. And most actors are not comfortable interviewees. Most politicians are not comfortable because, as I said earlier, they like to project. They like to, they like people to perceive them as, as the best, which is part of the nature of celebrity and of the famous. So, Ate Guy has always been lovely as an interviewee, but she makes me nervous.
That is something different. That is, that's a revelation.
Yeah, but
Okay.
new stars, senior stars, and I have done Daniel Padilla to Alden Richards to Dennis Trillo to I was with Piolo Pascual in Hawaii for the TOFA. I cannot think of anyone. I've done all of them.
All of them.
To a point that I don't want this to sound condescending, but to the point that doing movie stars has become, the word is not common, but has become mundane. It has become part of my life every day because I do a daily talk show.
It's daily.
From Monday to Friday.
My goodness.
And live.
Wow. Okay, so now, all of these are luminaries, stars, politicians. Has there ever been a time where just you interviewed an ordinary person?
Oh.
Meaning not on television, not a politician.
Oh, yes.
Yes?
I did a couple of shows like Controversial. I was very proud of that. I did...
Controversial, please
Controversial
explain.
was a docu-interview I did on ABS-CBN and a couple of other public affairs shows. So doon sa palabas na ito, lalo na sa ating mga kababayan, I did interviews. I will not forget interviews I've done with carnappers.
Carnappers? I mean, they...
Real carnappers.
Wow.
And I was criticized heavily for it. Dahil nga, why... And I think the point was right. Why we gave airtime to criminals, to carnappers. But the intent was what goes on in the head of, what goes on in the minds of. Alam mo kung saan namin ginawa ang interview, Loida? There is this canteen sa ABS-CBN. Doon kami sa Bubong. We were at the rooftop of the canteen because it has to be so it had to be secret.
That's right. Yes.
And we were asking them not to bring their guns, and they refused because they wanted to be safe. The only reason, I think the strongest reason, kung bakit nila ginawa ang interview was because I was waray.
Yes.
I was waray.
Yes.
I will not also forget, having gone to Tondo, I did a story of grandmothers who pushed drugs. I did some dangerous interviews.
To earn a living, I guess.
To earn a living, to
yes.
support their apos to school, to be able to buy food. I did a lot of interviews
How many?
with.
You had one grandmother?
No. A group of grandmothers.
Really? And
A
they
group of
admitted that they were
Yes.
selling drugs.
On my morning show, Homeboy, I remember doing an interview of 4 women who were sex workers. The mother and the 3 daughters.
Oh my goodness. Really?
Yes, I have done interviews with
Were you criticized for that?
the carnappers. I was.
Yeah.
I was heavily criticized because I gave airtime to criminals. And I understood the criticism. I understood the criticism. Did I feel people were right? I think in hindsight I saw the point.
Yes.
I saw the point. But the point of the show was para makita rin natin kung ano ang naglalaro sa loob ng isipan ng mga taong ito.
Yes.
In that particular interview, Loida, I remember one of them saying, pag ganito, pag kayo nakarnap, huwag na kayo manlaban, ibigay nyo na para hindi kayo mamatay. So they were giving tips, actually, on how to handle a situation like a carnapping or being carnapped.
Oh my goodness.
So I remember that. The lolas, I was in tears. I remember that. Nakakaiyak. And sabi ko nga, pag uwi ko sa bahay, Nanay was still alive during the time. And I said, Nanay, you cannot imagine how blessed I am and how blessed we are that we don't have to do what the lolas are doing to be able to eat every day.
Yes.
Naalala ko lang yung pag-uusap namin ng aking ina. Yeah. every interview, Loida, to this day, is like a master class for me. Ang dami kong natututunan.
Yes.
Ang dami ko.
Yes.
And there are no short, long, big, small interviews. Every interview is an interview.
Okay, that's wonderful. All right, you talk about your mother, and I know you are very close to her. Okay, so can you just tell the audience what kind of influence or what do you remember most? I mean, there are many, many situations, I'm sure, but what is it? Your mother passed away. I my condolence on that one. But what, if you could tell the audience, what was the most, the three things that you consider your mother gave you or taught you that still remains with you in your persona?
Nanay was a public school teacher she taught grade 1 for 41 years, 11 months, and 2 days.
Wow. Grade 1.
Grade
not
1.
The grade 2, grade 3. So she's
Grade 1.
The first instruction for every child.
The joy of Nanay's life was every time somebody comes to her and says, Nanay, kayo ho ang nagturo sa akin magsulat ng aking pangalan. To her, that was joy. Lessons I learned from my nanay, that you can be proud even if you're poor. I come from a very poor family, mahirap na pamilya. Ang nanay ko ay galing sa isang baryo. To be able to go to school in Samar, 12 kilometers, they would walk barefoot para ang kanilang bakya ay hindi maluma.
Wow.
Ang nanay would always say, being poor is the best place to tell your story someday.
Wow.
Whatever happens.
Yes. Walking, that means walking on the road without shoes, not even shoes, bakya. Bakya is a wooden slipper.
Yes.
And so rather than use it, then it becomes old. Okay, walking without shoes, 12 kilometers.
Yes, every day, one
my
way.
God.
So 24 kilometers to school and from school.
That's how much your mother,
Yes.
as a child, valued education.
Tama. At parating sinasabi ng nanay na we are poor, but I want you to go to school. Go for education. Go for education because the possibilities are infinite. She had a way of saying that in Waray.
Say it in Waray.
Ayaw kahadlok kay pobre ka man, kay kung pobre ka, basta may danim pinag-adman, harayo itim madadatong. In other words, for as long as you educate yourself, you will go far. Nanay was not one to say, I want you to be rich. You have to be open. That's number one. Number two, Nanay always said, wherever you go, you have to find your way back home.
Oh, wow.
Wherever you go. Whatever happens.
Okay. And in other words, find your way back home, meaning do not be proud.
No. Oh, yes,
No.
right.
Yeah.
At saka kahit maging successful ka, kahit maging mahirap ka, whatever happens to you, I will always be home waiting for you.
Okay, love.
Yeah.
Love is, okay, so he grew up knowing that whatever happens to him, there's love waiting for him at home. So
Yeah.
that's very, very, very satisfying, and, it gives you comfort.
Right. Don't lose your way back home. Number three, and I still carry this with me today. I used to join declamation contests, oratorical contests, singing contests.
So you've always been competitive.
I've always been
You
competitive
want
in a
always
good
to
way.
be the best.
Nana
Okay, the
was
best.
my coach, She would say, raise your left hand here, etc. And she was never afraid. I think I learned some amount of bravado from my mother. But she used to say, every time I joined declamation contests, even before a contest begins, you are my winner. Don't make me cry. I'm about to cry. Don't make me cry. Even before a contest begins, you are my winner.
Okay, everyone, every mother out there, father out there listening,
Yes.
can you be that? The mother, even before he goes out, you are my winner. Okay.
Kaya hindi ako natatakot sumali sa mga contests. I was never afraid to fail. I was never afraid to commit mistakes. I was never afraid to mispronounce words. Well, I was afraid once in a while, but at the end of every interview, at the end of every declamation piece, I was never afraid. Manalo, matalo, because to my mother, I
You are
was
the
a winner.
Okay, that is so good. Okay, everyone, please listen to that. Okay, even up to now, he's emotional.
Yeah.
Because he knows his mother is there. Sandal. I mean, there is always somebody who will go back. When you go back home, you're always the winner. You're always number one.
It connects me to this powerful line by Maya Angelou. I come as one, I stand as 10,000. I remember the line because this is a poem written by the great Maya Angelou. I think the title of the poem is My Grandmother. I come as one, I stand as 10,000. I'm never alone. We're never alone, Loida. I know Nana is present. I know our ancestors are present. I know Tatay, Lolo, they're somewhere there saying, go boy, tell the story. I stand on their shoulders proud of what we were. They were tillers of the soil, fishers of the sea, and I am never alone. I am brave, I'm strong, I'm humble, I will fight for what is right. I embrace my mistakes because I am never alone.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Dr. Boy Abunda. And then I'd like to say, I call him Dr. Boy Abunda, not because he has an honorary degree, but because he earned it.
Worked
he
hard.
Started, yes, master's and then PhD, Doctor of Philosophy in Education.
Social development.
Social development. Okay, can you just tell why did you go all the way? I mean, you're popular already. We're well-to-do. You have all the trappings of success. But then you still wanted to have the PhD.
Because one of my biggest frustrations in life, at ito'y para sa mga Pilipino po sa buong mundo, I was doing so many shows, I was earning good money, and I could afford to buy my Alexander McQueen's. Pero hindi ako buong masaya. I was not totally happy because hindi ko pa naiuuwi. I have not brought home a diploma.
Oh my God.
To nanay. So in early 2000s, I remember the great Helena Benitez, Tita Helen. There are two women, I'd like to mention them. There are two women who played very important roles in my life. First was the late Conching Sunico, who was considered to be the duyen of Manila's 400. Tita Conching believed in me when no one believed in me. Tita Helen was responsible for saying, go back to school. She reminded me about the possibilities because of education. And also she knew that I wanted to be a teacher. So in early 2000, I went
For the audience, Tita Helen or Helena Benitez was president of the Philippine Women's University and became a senator.
That's right.
Okay, so...
Yes. And Tita Conching was ambassador at large for President Diosdado Macapagal and the only ninang of the former president, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. And that sort of gave me some leeway and some edge over the others every time I would invite her for interviews. It was because of Tita Conching. So these were the two women. Tita Helen said, go back to school. And I went back to school. Hindi po ako tapos ng college when I was starting my career on television. Okay. So I went for the ETIA program. It's an equivalency program of the higher education in the Philippines. I went for it. Nagpupunta po ako sa eskwelahan, nagre-report po ako. I would do my papers, I would attend classes, I would go for consultations. And then I graduated my college. I brought home my diploma to nanay. Mm-hmm. Pero while I was in the middle of my educational pursuit, Loida, sabi ni Tita Helen, go for your master's. Sabi ko, nga, tita. So I went for my master's. So I have a master's degree. I have a master's degree in communications. I have a second master's degree, but I don't have a thesis. This is in public diplomacy and international relations under the wonderful tutelage of the great Ambassador Rosario Manalo, who is the mother of our Secretary of Foreign Affairs,
now,
Ricky
yes.
Manalo,
yes.
who was married to, I believe, the speechwriter of the great Carlos P. Romulo. So I have been exposed to, I gravitate towards very powerful women like you. So I went back to school. I went for my master's. After my master's, Tita Helen wanted to encourage me to move forward. I remember she gave me a solo graduation when I finished my master's.
Really? Wow.
So that I would be encouraged to go further. And I went for social development. It was, I think, Again, if I remember correctly, Tita Liling Briones, who became Secretary of Education during Noy's time, President Aquino's time, who encouraged me to go for social development. So every Saturday from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock in the evening, I would crawl out of bed to go to my classes for how many years. I wrote my thesis instead of the usual 6 months. I think I wrote my dissertation, my doctoral dissertation in 2 years. Nasa ospital ang nanay ko, nasa baba ako sa Starbucks, nagsusulat po ako ng dissertation. Difficult. Even my dissertation defense was hell. Was hell. So when people say, is it an honorary degree? Hindi po.
No.
Pinaghirapan ko po yan. Why? Because I wanted my mother to be happy.
So she was already sick when you were studying.
Yes,
Okay.
but I brought all my diplomas to my mother.
Yes, yeah.
So before she passed on, I had a collegiate diploma, I had a masteral diploma, and I had a doctoral diploma.
Bravo.
And I made Nanay proud.
Okay, bravo. I think for now, if you don't mind, we would like to have questions from the audience. And this is Shanim B. What makes you still excited about your work since you've been doing it for decades?
I continue to be interested. You know, when you do my job, you know that there is something new that you will discover. I go every day and I do a live show.
It's Monday to Friday?
Yes, and I surprise myself. I really surprise myself. I don't know how I'm going to begin my interview. I do extensive research on my guests, but I play. To answer that question, I really play. I like playing with danger. I am on cam and I don't even know what I'm going to say, and that's exciting.
That's exciting. Okay.
That's exciting.
Very good.
Not knowing. You know, I just want to mention this, Loida, because this is important. The power of not knowing. You know, it's now over the internet because the recent graduation of Harvard, they usually allow 3 students to speak. And one of them, an Indian-American girl, delivered a speech titled, "The Power of Not Knowing."
Wow. Really?
Yeah, just
I didn't
this
see
year.
that.
I saw it a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Months ago.
Very good. Very good. The trouble. Okay, so
how do I keep myself
knowing is
excited
very
not
good.
knowing?
Not knowing. Okay,
Yes.
very good. Very good. That's a lesson for everyone too. Don't be afraid to not know.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Then that's from Dr. Boy Abunda. Now, this is from Ming G. Your career has made such an impact on Philippine entertainment and media. What legacy do you hope to leave behind, both in your professional and personal life? Wow, napaka-complicated.
Ming, but that's a lovely question. One, on the professional. Do not ever allow anyone to tell you you wouldn't make it as a talk show host or as an interviewer because you're Bisaya.
Oh, no.
Because I was told that.
Really?
Don't try television because you're Waray. You mispronounce words. Ang E nagiging I, ang O nagiging U. You can relate to this kasi Bicolana ka, Loida.
Yes.
You know what my mother used to tell me about it? Embrace it. Pag nagkamali ka, pag natapilok ang dila mo, repeat. You know, say it again. That does not define who you are.
That's wonderful.
That does not define who you are.
Okay.
So, that's on the professional side. I mean, everything can be learned, and you know, everything. It's a skill, and you know, some people would say, "But I am shy," or "I am not. I don't have the natural inclination to talking." But if you want a career in conversations, you can do it. The personal is, I've only one. People may forget what I have done as a communicator. People may forget the shows I have done, but I beg people to remember what I used to say every time, what I say every time I end my shows. Make your nanay proud.
Oh, I love that. Now you will make me cry. Thank you.
Make
Thank
your
you.
nanay proud.
Make your nanay proud. That's
Whatever
wonderful.
you do, wherever you are,
That's
whatever
wonderful.
happens to you, make your nanay proud.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, this is from Rob L., New York City. How do you engage with the LGBTQ movements and communities in the Philippines? And how do you balance your Catholic faith with being gay? That's from Rob L., New York City.
Rob, I want to do more conversations. I want to do more projects with the LGBTQIA plus youth in the Philippines. Nung nakaraang June, I composed 6 songs. This is the first extended play. Ang tawag namin yan, the first album that has been produced for the LGBTQIA plus community of the Philippines. We have to do conversations. Kailangan hindi kami mapagod. And I listen to all their stories. I'd like to be able to mentor them. It's not easy to be gay in the Philippines. So the short answer to that is I am engaged. I do conversations. I participate in symposia. I have a very, very small scholarship for young gays in the LGBTQIA plus. Maliit lamang, but like what Tita Helen Benitez did for me and Tita Kunching and my mother, I'm trying to do for young LGBTQIA plus people in the Philippines. Education is very important, but the struggle is far from over. The SOGI bill in our country has been languishing in Congress for over 24 July of 2000, so almost 25 years now. A lot of work has to be done. The LP, the album or the extended play that we produced is in the hope that we continue to remind people that we are people, that we are human beings, that we deserve respect, that we deserve love, that we are equal to anyone. And I will have a confession today. Natatakot po ako sa Catholic Church. I do not fight with my church. Katoliko po ako. But I take solace in the words of Pope Francis. If you're a person of goodwill, and who seeks the Lord, who am I to judge?
I love that. Yes.
I take
Pope
refuge
Francis.
in that line.
Yes, yes.
And lastly, naniniwala ako that our time will come. Meaning,
in the Philippines.
Yeah, but even globally, Loida. I
Yes,
mean, you know,
globally. In the United States, we have recognized,
Yes,
Loida.
Loida.
Same-sex marriage and all that. We have
I know,
recognized it already in the army. Okay, we accept now. You don't have to. Don't tell. Don't.
Don't
meaning
say,
to say,
don't tell.
Yeah, we recognize that they can be good soldiers, even if they are gay. So,
but
in the
even-
United States, there is
No, but even in the United States, it has become very challenging because with Roe v. Wade being overturned, many people in the community and the queer community are afraid that, you know, what is next
You're next.
is a marriage equality. One of the most powerful jurisprudence was written by the Supreme Court Chief Justice Anthony Kennedy, who wrote the decision on same-sex marriage. I'm very familiar with this story. But the struggle globally continues. It continues. And our time will come. I mean, when people realize that we too are children of God, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle, but we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop. And it has gone to a certain... In the Philippines, it's difficult. It's difficult. But people are kind. We are... we fight back. You know, we fight back. It's a struggle that we have to fight strategically, tactically.
Yes. I think in the Philippines, the ordinary people accept people who are gay. Okay, it's in the higher up, in the Catholic Church, as you said. And for those who have not heard Pope Francis say, who am I to judge? Okay, who are we to judge? We are all children of
Hillary
God.
Clinton has one of the best quotes there. LGBT rights are human rights.
That's it. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, she has one of the best lines there.
Yes. She might still be coming to your... Never give up.
You know, I just want to mention I was crying when I was reading the decision. The ponente po ng same-sex marriage dito sa Amerika was Justice Kennedy. Alam mo ang sinasabi niya doon, Loida? One of the most powerful lines in that jurisprudence was, naniniwala siya na ginagalang that LGBTQIA people respect the sacrament of marriage. Because he said, because if they don't, Why are they fighting for this right?
Right. Very good. Yes. Yes.
And he's
Yes.
right.
Yes. No, I want, Hillary has said it, gay rights are human rights.
That's right.
Yes, we are all human.
We
are all
cling to
equal.
that line.
Yes.
We cling to that line of Mrs.
Yes.
Clinton.
Yes. All right. Now, this one is from Cora K. After all the lives you've touched and the stories you've heard, what do you believe is the true meaning of success? Oh, wow.
I will borrow the words, not my words, but the words of the great Sidney Poitier. When he defined what success is all about. Pagkahaba-haba ng prosesyon, pagkahaba-haba ng kwento, sabi ni Sidney Poitier, success is being able to provide for your family.
Wow.
And in my case, success is being able to provide for your family and to be able to make your mama proud.
Yes. Yes.
That to me is success.
And she has, I think. You have
Yeah.
given her more than enough.
Nanay.
Of course.
I really hope.
Yes.
Pero totoo yan, Loida, hindi ako, I was not attached to kailangan ganito ang bahay ko, kailangan ganito. To this very day, basta umaandar ang auto na sa akin yun. Nagkakamay pa rin po ako kumain. Nothing really has changed. I am so connected to my core. I'm so connected to my story.
That's beautiful. Yes, very good. Okay, this is from Vanity. How has your role as a talk show host and mentor shaped your personal relationships and the way you view love and friendship? Wow. Vanity, bigat niyan.
I will answer that, Vanity, in one line. And this is really difficult. But I've learned this through the years. I still continue to learn. Love and give without expecting anything in return.
Ayun. Yan. Okay.
That's really tough. Love, magmahal ka lang, pero huwag kang umasang mahalin. Magbigay ka, huwag kang umasang pasalamatan.
Nice.
Then and only then will we ever understand what love and giving are all about.
Wow, ganda nun. All right. Did you understand that? That's wonderful. That should be in script. Okay. From Amelia, how do you envision the next chapter of your life, both on a professional and personal level? Okay.
On the professional level, I'd like to be able to do more concepts. Gen Zs are speaking a different language. Right now, we are conceptualizing a talk material which is really totally out of my comfort zone. I've never been comfortable actually in my zone. But learning the language, they have a new language, they have a new cadence, they have a new rhythm. And getting into that is totally, totally exciting. I'm not going to stop learning. I'm not going to stop conceptualizing new shows. I'm not going to stop committing mistakes. I'm not going to stop having fun, laughing, crying. That will continue in my professional life. In my personal life, I need to laugh more. I need to travel more. I need to scream more.
To be more human, really.
I want to be more human.
Yes,
I'd like to
yes.
be able to travel, really
Yes,
travel
yes.
and travel and travel. Mona Brea and I were just talking in the car. Sabi niya, what is it that you want to do most in this lifetime? Now, sabi ko, travel.
Yes.
I want to
okay.
be able to travel.
Yes. No, you'll just have to plan better.
Yes.
That's all. Yes. All right. And the last one is from Sheena. You've often given people advice on navigating life's toughest challenges. Is there one piece of advice you would give your younger self? Okay. Yes. Your younger self.
Do not be afraid. Okay. Do not ever be afraid. Just go. Just ride the tide. Just roll with the punches. But always be kind.
All right. That we can end it with that. You have learned so much wisdom. Now, Tito Boy.
No, but what a joy it is, what a joy, what pride it is to do Fast Talk with the one and the only Loida Nicolas Lewis.
All right. I'll give you what you give others. Fast Talk with Tito Boy. All right?
Okay.
All right. Love or career?
Love.
First kiss or first heartbreak?
First kiss.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Do I say it to you, Loida?
All right. We skip that. What's your biggest fear?
It's still death.
Beach or mountains?
Ay, dagat, beach.
All right. One thing you cannot live without.
Bong.
That's cute. Okay.
He's not a thing as a person, but I can't live without him.
All right. Wonderful. Sweet or spicy?
Sweet.
Morning person or night owl?
Night owl.
Lights on or lights off?
On. Para kita.
Last person you texted?
Bong.
Okay.
Oh, now he's in your living room. And I said, love you.
Ang cute naman. Dream interviewee. Who is your dream interviewee?
Right now, Kamala Harris.
Okay, great. One word that best describes you?
Loving.
Okay. What makes you smile the most?
A good interview.
Okay. If you were not a talk show host, what would you have been?
A go-go dancer.
Wow, that's revelation. All right.
A pole dancer.
A pole dancer. Okay. Fame or respect?
Respect.
What's your favorite time of the day?
12 midnight. When vampires fly out.
And who's the last person you kissed?
Baka magalit.
Okay. Sex or chocolate?
Loida naman. Sex.
Okay. And that ends it. Thank you very much.
What am I going to do with chocolates? Guilty pleasure. I was about to say sex.
Ang galing. Ang galing. There you have it, Dr. Boy Abunda. I noticed that you have mentioned Bong several times. So now, and also when you talk about Bong, there's like sparkle in your eyes. So can you tell the audience, if you don't mind, who is Bong?
Bong is my partner of many, many years. Tagal no?
Yes.
We've been together for, to be exact, 41 years.
Wow, that's marvelous.
We grew up together. We were both 6 years old when we started together. I'm joking. No, but we were both very, very young.
Yes, very close
Bong
friends.
and I have been together for, over 4 decades now. You know why I adore the guy? He is, aside from Nana, he's probably the only other person who loves me more than I love myself. Who respects me more than I respect myself. And that's why I said earlier that I cannot imagine a life without him. And I continue to love him. I continue to apologize to him. I continue to say thank you. I continue to say sorry. And Bong means forever.
That's lovely. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much,
Maraming salamat,
Dr.
Loida.
Boy.
Maraming salamat.
Yes. And so this is the Loida Lewis podcast. Let's live, love, and learn together. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat. Thank you, Loida.
The Loida Lewis podcast, hosted by Loida Lewis, is produced by the creators of Over a Glass or Two, Jesse and JV. Executive produced by Loida Nicolas Lewis. Rate and review us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for a chance to be featured on a future episode. Have a question for Miss Loida? Just email us on askloidalewis@gmail.com. Your question might make its way to a future episode. Subscribe on all major platforms to never miss a beat. Thank you for listening to the Loida Lewis podcast. Let's live, love, laugh, and learn together